Communities. Welcome to Innovation C's community. There are many forms of communities all around the world. There are social communities like the Scouts. There are religious communities like the Catholic Church. There are countless political communities all around the world. How come we all choose the comfort of a community? If we are so adventurous as we think we are and travel around the world, we often end up in temporary communities like hostels or digital communities and call ourselves digital nomads. Clearly, we as humans are seeking comfort with each other, even when it's difficult for some to socialize. But we all need the feeling that we belong, so somewhere with someone or some group, especially now during a pandemic. Community leaders come in just as many shapes as the communities themselves. For example, you have the democratic chosen one, you have the dictator, the hero, or the accidental leader who happen to be in the right place at the right time. And you have the leaders who seem to be everywhere all the time. Today, this Wednesday, we are going to watch two community leaders tell their tale on what drives them, what their successes are, and hopefully learn from what their downfalls were or still are. We never stop learning. As Innovation C, we are also a community of individuals, leaders, experts, educators, students, and observers. We want to know what drives other communities, so we, as a community, can assist them. We want to empower more leaders and more communities to make our Curaçao society a better social community. Before we can do that, we need to start small. Even though we dream big, and believe me, we do at Innovation C, we start with two proven community leaders. Yolanda Wiel from Spread the Love Curaçao, and who has worked within the Curaçao organization amongst many others. And Daniel Corsen, who has proven himself as a scout leader and as a change maker in business solutions. Both have earned their spot on this stage. So with kindness, I ask you, turn off your notification and take a moment to settle in. We are going ready for takeoff now. Some tips for an even better experience: turn off the notifications of your phone so you can focus on the speakers. Use a headset or earpiece to avoid getting distracted. Feel free to communicate in the chat section, but don't share your private information. It's okay if you share your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and things like that, but just be careful. If you have a question that you want answered by the speakers, ask in the questions tab, and we will do our best to address it in the roundtable. Be respectful. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do need to accept each other as part of our community. With that being said, our conference for today is going to look a little bit like this. As you see, my name is there first. My name is Andrew, and Andrew, I'm struggling with my own name over here because my mom named me Andrew Greg Mitchell Clemens Kirchner, so it's very confusing, but it's Andrew Andy Kirchner. And we're going to continue with first Yolanda Wiel, then Daniel Corsen, and then a digital roundtable with the lady that's working on the buttons right now, and that's Vianna Cecilia, and my brother in arms, Luc Weber, who has an awesome announcement to make, where you might even get some free, how do you say that, money for your project. So with that being said, I think we are ready to start off our conference for today, our mini digital conference, Communities Work Together. Please say hello to each other in the chat, communicate with each other there freely. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the question bar, the tab next to it. And Yolanda is also going to have a poll later, so keep an eye out for that. With that being said, I'm going to ask Yolanda to please come on stage with me. Yolanda, can you please come on stage so we can introduce you? Hi, Elamika. Good to see you. Nice that you're here. Flavina Wanga, our ex-speaker, of course. Vianna Cecilia, you can see there, one of our moderator and one of our core team members. and Luc Weber, of course. Most people from Cura Innovation C know him as the founder of Curaçao, or one of the founders of Curaçao. Hi, Yolanda, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Yes? Yolanda, are you a little bit nervous or just excited?
Also,
Just a little.
both.
But you're just gonna spread more love. So what is there to be nervous about?
Nothing. Spreading love is what I do.
Exactly. Just before we started with this, hello, Miguel. Welcome. Um, just before we started with this, Yolanda and I live pretty close to each other in the same neighborhood. We could hear the thunder coming. It made me think of Stevie Nicks' dreams. Thunder only comes when it's raining. Thank goodness we don't have rain, because then we would have some internet connection. In any case that would happen, Rihanna will gladly take over. So if you see that happen, you know what happened with us. The rain kicked us both out. It's spreading us with love of water. Are you ready for your presentation, Yolanda?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Well, in that case, I'm gonna give you some time to introduce yourself to the people, because you can do that better than whoever. And then please continue with your presentation. And also, I believe you have a little video to show us. So I'm very curious about that one.
Yeah. Well, it's not a video. It's photos that are in my presentation. So you'll see
Okay.
in the slides.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna remove myself off stage. Toy, toy, toy.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Yolanda, and I live to spread love. Really, I love kindness, and I work to see opportunities to be kind and to encourage others to be kind as well. Um, it's also why I started to I became a therapist. I'm an art therapist. I give therapy through art, and I've worked with kids that have autism. I've worked with kids in juvenile detention in GOG here on the island, and I've had my own practice since 2011. Um, but while working as a therapist, I started to realize that a lot of things happen before someone comes to therapy. You know, many things have piled up and have become this big mountain of pain, really. And I wanted people to not get to that mountain. I don't want them to come to therapy, even though that's the thunder, even though that's what I do for a living, or I used to do. So I started looking for ways to prevent this mountain of pain of forming, and I realized that often forget that they're really awesome. You know, that they're winners even just for existing, and they are worthy of everything that life has to offer. Um, and people aren't kind to themselves, and aren't kind to other people. They aren't kind to animals or the environment, the planet. So that's really what I focus on, to remind people that they're awesome and that they have the power to impact everything around them and their own lives. So I started Spread the Love in 2015, and we started on Brionplein with little notes with reminders of, you know, compliments, or just to say you have a nice smile, or I love your hair, or something. And then we started adding prompts to encourage people to be kind in their own lives. For example, hold the door for someone, or say hi to a stranger, or call up a friend you haven't talked to in a long time. And then we added free hugs. So we moved to the Emma Bridge, and then with our sign we would stand there and with our arms open, and people would come and get a hug. It was great because on a bridge they can't get away from you. Um, and yeah, then we were asked, because people started hearing about us. So then we were asked to add kindness to several events, like TEDx and book presentations, the Pride Parade, many other things. And I actually want to show you some photos of what we've done in the last few years. So here you see the Brasa por Nada on the Emma Bridge, Kindness Rocks. Kindness Rocks is actually a game, a kind of game that I started where I would paint rocks that are from the Tafelberg, and they have special messages for people to find them. But on the back, it says, hide me somewhere else. Because I wanted people to find the message, feel good, and then hide it somewhere else. So everyone is participating, young, old, any religion, even people that aren't from here, they can find a rock and then hide it somewhere else, even in their own country. I think that didn't really work out because people, I think they just took the rocks home. They didn't really hide them again. So yeah, and then we did a Good Deeds Day. A few years ago was the first year. Here you see one photo of a beach cleanup. We added love notes to the goods that were being shipped to St. Martin after Irma, the hurricane. We joined Curaçao. We were blessed to get this huge, I don't know, it's not an SUV or a Jeep, but it's bigger, from a tour company, and they drove us around the island on the day of Curaçao, and we went and then just got out, gave people hugs. It was awesome. And the group of volunteers, most were scouts, so they made a yell, especially for our trip. It was great. I made this mural in Scharlo. We did another water cleanup for Good Deeds Day. Here on the dark photo that's at night is at the Speeltuin in Bloemhof. On the left, you see some love notes. And the last photos are of the underwater cleanup, the kindness rocks that I bring with me when I travel. I always joke that I'm probably the only person traveling with rocks in her luggage. Probably not true, but it's a nice joke. And on the right, you see on Good Deeds Day 2, we formed a small choir and we walked around the hospital singing for people. So we went into a room, we sang a song that everyone knows, which is really nice. And then we just walked to the next room and sang another song. It was great. And on the bottom, you see the Plan for Peace, which was the first Good Deeds Day on the island. And on the left bottom, you see another kindness rock, which was part of a series of kindness rocks in Papiamento, Hasi Turcos ku Amor. So yeah, one of my biggest projects, or at least I'm working to make it the biggest project, is Good Deeds Day. And what's really cool is that Good Deeds Day started in Israel. It's a worldwide movement of countries joining the Good Deeds Day action initiative, really. And last year, 108 countries participated, 3.9 million people doing good. And Curaçao is one of the participating countries. And the cool part about it is that we are connected to all the other Caribbean participants, because one Caribbean island, which is Trinidad, they coordinate all the Caribbean islands and countries. Last year we went there, we met everyone, and now we have a WhatsApp group and we send each other stuff and we keep up to date. It's really nice. Good Deeds Day is organizing a webinar in a few days. So if you would like the link, you can join. You don't have to be a country leader like I am, but you can just join if you're interested. So let me know, I'll share the link. So yeah, next slide. When I was asked to talk about communities working together, sorry, I started thinking, because how I see communities is it's an involvement of tribes, really. Because when we were still living in caves or huts, in the middle of nowhere, we were living in tribes, and we had maybe some chief or something. But the defining factor that made a tribe really is a group of people that cared for each other and they took care of each other. It's not a race and it's not customs, it's not religious beliefs, it's people who care for each other and care about each other um, to survive. Because back in the cave time days, life was hard. You know, there were seasons and wild animals roaming the country. So you depended on your tribe to survive. Nowadays, we don't really, and especially here on the island, we don't have such extreme seasons, but we still need each other to survive. It's my belief that if we were not meant to take care of each other, we would have been born on our own planet. And since we're not, I think it's a sign and it's our duty, and it's really the rent you pay um, for being here to be part of the community wherever you are. And the way you take part of in the community really to me is not surviving anymore because we have evolved, but now it's to make people thrive. And thriving to me is um, it's a communal thing. So I don't thrive if you don't thrive. It's kind of selfish actually, but it's also really logical. So then I thought kindness is to me is the best way to make people thrive. But it takes a bit of a mindset that most people don't have or they forget about really because most are born with it. But then we grow up and life is hard, and then we just become a bit harder too. Um, so to change a mindset, it takes a different thought. And to change a thought is a bit of an effort because a thought is really an electrical current that goes through your brain from one neuron to the other. And you may have heard of the saying, neurons that fire together wire together. Well, that's exactly what happens. So when you want to think another thought that you haven't thought before, or in another way that you haven't used before, it takes some effort. But the good thing is that when you're thinking that thought and your electrical current goes through that neural pathway, it attracts another neural pathway. So the neural pathway starts to grow and it becomes the main highway of electrical currents. And the other path that you used to use just disappears. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to tell your brain not to think that way. You just ignore it and use your new path in your brain, which is great. And I think it's within everyone's reach because it only takes 17 seconds during 144 days, which is 4.5 months, a bit more, and you've gained terrain. You've actually done it and changed your mindset. So that's something to remember. Even if you don't want to do it for kindness, put it into practice for something else. Okay, let me just look down because I have my notes here. We're going to the next slide. And we have the poll. Because I was curious to know from you what the main reason is to not be kind when you're faced with a difficult situation. Or maybe if you're not as kind as you think you could be, what is the reason for you not to be as kind as you could be? So if you look at the tab on the right where you see polls, please go and vote. And maybe we'll talk about it later after the presentation. All right. We'll go to the next slide. So what's the added value of kindness for the community? It makes the community stronger because when you're looking out for others and you're going out of your way to be kind, it helps make life a bit better for others. Imagine if you're an elderly neighbor and your neighbor comes to look at you, comes to see if you're doing okay, comes to bring you, a meal. You feel better, and you'll tell someone else about it, and they'll hear about it, and they'll go, "Oh, you know what? I could do that too." Or, "Wow, that's so good. I'm going to do something for my neighbor. I'm going to help them. I don't know, um, help them with their dog, for example." So that's actually also why I chose the name Spread the Love, because that's how kindness spreads. I do something, and the other person that receives the kindness may go and tell someone else, or someone sees it and they go like, "Wow, that's so cool." It's actually proven that they secrete the same hormones of feel good, even if they're not receiving the kindness, just for seeing it happen. Isn't that great? It's contagious. Um, so there's no loss really in kindness. I win because I do something good and my brain changes. The person that receives the kindness wins too, and someone else seeing it happen wins too. So it's a win-win-win, really. Beat that. um, so yeah, what I wanted to say is that when you're out in living your daily life, you're always part of a community. When you're working at home from a distance, you're being part of a community. When you're driving in your car going someplace, you're part of the community traffic. And when you get to the supermarket, for example, you're part of the community supermarket customer. Um, so everywhere you are, you could be someone that makes it better, that makes the community you are in at the moment better. When you're driving, for example, you can give someone a chance, which is really easy. But also think of other ways to be kind. Make a little bit of more effort to be kind. Go just the extra mile. When you're, for example, it's night and you're standing on the side of the road, parked in front of a house, turn off your headlights. You don't need to see the road. You're not driving. And it's kinder for the other person that is using the road. So think about, more ways that are maybe out of your comfort zone, but are easy to do, and you could make something better for someone else. When you're, for example, raising your children, listen to them. It's not rocket science, but it's really important, and children really feel heard and seen when they're listened to, or when they're allowed to have some input. So it's kindness, it's psychology, it's everything in one. When you're at work, for example, you can be kind at work. Many people go to work dreading the moment they get there because they hate it. Um, don't go and find ways to be kind and to make things better for others, especially if you have co-workers that you don't like. That's the best kind of kindness. You could, for example, when you get up, get a coffee, get a coffee for someone else. Or if you're going to the printer and you see the paper is almost empty, it's not completely empty but almost empty, go ahead and fill it up. When you're done drinking your coffee, wash the coffee mugs in the sink. There's probably a cleaning lady and she will clean it up, of course. But if you do it, you are showing that you're being part of the community at your workplace and that you're making it better. And when you start doing that, other people are going to follow because they're going to see it and they're going to not want to spoil the great thing that's happening at work. Um, so yeah, for example, when you're in the supermarket, you could go ahead and bring your cart back to the place where you're supposed to bring it, or you can go the extra mile and bring it all the way inside. When you're standing in line to go pay, you could let someone go first, but it's even better if you let someone go first that has a grocery cart full of groceries. That's the kindness that it's gonna hurt. It's gonna take you. It's gonna take you some effort. But if you're not in a rush, go ahead and do it and look at how good you're going to feel and look at how others are going to feel. It's amazing, and you're going to have such an impact on someone's day. Um, So yeah, the kindness that I want you to remember, if you're gonna take away anything from this talk, is that you're always in a situation where you can make it better. You can even if you're living alone, minding your own business, not talking to anyone, you're doing groceries, for example. Buy something that's not in plastic, but in a paper carton box or in a glass jar, or made locally, um, GMO free or whatever, whatever you like, or eat less meat. That's already kindness. Um, yeah, and do it because you want to make things better. Do it because you want to add to the community. You're being part of it. You are here. You don't have to pay rent because you're worthy of everything, of course. But I think if you're here and you're able-bodied, and even if you're not able-bodied, but if you can, if you can do anything, make something better. Even if people don't see you do it, you will know that you made it better. So yeah. Um, Next slide. Make kindness a habit. That's really what I was saying before. Even if you're raising your child, doing groceries, booking a ticket to go on vacation, investing. People are investing in oil, or you could invest in sustainable trees or something. I don't know. I have no clue about investing, but those who do, they will see opportunities. And the last thing is homework. Since you watched my presentation, you're getting homework, and it's that hold the vision. And hold the vision means kindness is not about unicorns and rainbows and butterflies. It is, but it's also real time brain waves and electrical currents that are happening in your brain that I want you to invest in making the community a better place and making yourself a happier human. So yeah, that was it. That was my talk. Thank you so much. Follow me on the Facebook group where other people are adding kindness too. You could add your ideas and things you see around you or things you're doing. Um, Join us on Instagram and watch the videos on YouTube. And I have a website, spreadthelove.curaçao.com.
Take a deep breath and let it all out. Very well done. I mean, you made a salty old pirate smile through your presentation, and it's very fun to see that there is someone that kind of does what I do, but you say you don't. It's not unicorns and butterflies, but you are one big unicorn happiness fart. So I mean, I love it. I mean, I just smiled through your whole presentation. So I think everyone is very proud to have you part of our community. And I have to paraphrase you on this. This is the best. I have my notebook over here. This is the best one that I've heard so far. Since we are not born on our own planet, we need to pay rent. That's with kindness. I mean, I'm gonna hug you right here. Very well said. I love it. And one thing that I absolutely agree with you, and that's part why I'm part of this community is you change communities wherever you go. When you're here, you're in a community. When you go to the supermarket, you're in the community. While you're driving, you're in the community. You can't escape the community because even when you go to a forest to be alone, you still have to take care of our nature around you. So you have to live with that. So
Thank
awesome.
you.
Is there anything you feel like I felt I missed that because I felt so much pressure or
Well, I wanted to show my kindness rocks, but since there were the photos, I'll show them now if you can see them. This is one. I just wanted to
create? Wait,
show
let me take the presentation away. Can you show it again? Then I can see it way better.
the one.
You are worthy.
Yeah. And what I really like is that symbolically it connects us with everyone on the island because They're rocks from the Tafelberg, and all our buildings, or most of them, are made from rocks of the same Tafelberg. So even if they take them in their luggage and they bring them to their own country, they connected to all of us through this rock.
I love it. Just for the people to know, Yolanda doesn't even know. I had this idea for this mini conference for quite a while, but it just kept postponing. And she knew it was coming, so I know there was a lot of build up, and I think you did it amazingly. So thank you very much for that. Go have some water. Go give your dog a hug. Exactly.
There was no wind.
Don't leave your door open, all the mosquitoes will get in. But I'll see you at the round table, so don't go too far away. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Yolanda. See you in a bit. So yes, that was an awesome example of how kindness can work. I mean, she just exudes kindness. I just love the lady, so I'm very happy that she could share her spell on all of you. So with that being said, we're gonna move on to our next speaker in just a little bit. Just to make sure for everyone, we're gonna have a roundtable at the end. So if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, remarks, please write them down, and you can ask them in the chat section in the end to Yolanda or to me or to Diana, who is also checking this chat session, so she can ask Yolanda for you. So with that being said, I think I'm going to move on to our, what was it, Chief? I need to get him on stage so he can explain it to you. Daniel Corsen, can you please come on stage? You have something to explain to me.
Yes, here I am.
There he is. Daniel, good afternoon. I'm going to start with my apologies. Normally, I always have a time with every speaker, just like this, just the two of us. With you, I didn't get that chance. And for some reason, something went wrong just before the webinar started. But we're happy to be here. If I'm saying it correctly, you are a chief reshaper.
Yeah, that's not the name I invented myself, but it's the name that my colleagues are giving me. So yes, here at DNI, you can see it at the back. It's inverted, but we call everyone who works here a reshaper. That's what we do. The definition being that we're all here to be better in order to serve our clients better. So yeah, and then because I'm head of the company, I get to carry the name Chief Reshaper. Yeah.
I love it, and just so you know, it's not inverted to us. That's only for you. So
okay, it's that's right. True. I forgot about that. Yeah. That's
for
true.
me, the sign here in the back also looks inverted, but I know that you can read it. It's the best day ever because I wanted to talk to you for so long, and I wanted to give Yolanda this chance so long. So for me, every day is the best day ever. With that, I'm gonna give you the stage to do your thing, and I'll see you later in the roundtable. Toi.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be here with everyone. I see many familiar names. You're not seeing all the faces, so I'm seeing quite a few familiar names appearing here. Thank you for being with us. And again, thank you so much, Yolanda, for your very nice presentation. I mean, and as Andy was saying, the kindness, we could really feel it all the way where each of us are. So thank you for that. Let me just share my presentation here with you for a minute. Yes, the power of community. That's what I want to be talking to you about this afternoon. So, and I think it's something that Yolanda already spoke quite at length about, is that as people, it's in our DNA. We want to belong. We have a longing for belonging. She pronounced it even better, saying that we're not born on our own planet, and that's the rent we got to pay. But as people, as human beings, we really need others in order to survive. If we were the only ones left on the planet, there would be a very large chance, even if we had all the food and the water we needed, that we would still die because of loneliness if you're just alone. I don't know if how many of you watched the film Castaway, but that's a pretty good indication of what could happen to life if you're just left alone for such a long period of time. So because of the need of people to belong. We belong to many tribes, not just one, to many communities. You know, as a person, I'm a son. That's because I'm part of the community called my family. I'm a brother, again, as part of the community called family. I'm a colleague, and that's because I work in a community called DNI. I am a friend because I have a group of friends that I share a lot with, which is also another community. I am a scout, and that makes me also, and because I'm a part of the scout movement globally, I can say that I'm a scout as well. So you see that our identities are formed and are defined and are determined by all of the communities to which we are forming a part of. Because as a person, we really need that in order to be the person we are. There is a reason why there's this saying, you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Regina, Pearl Scout here as well. So because of that, that already gives communities tremendous power because it's only change only happens through people. And as communities have so much influence on people, and then that's what gives communities so much power. But what is community? Yolanda also spoke a little bit about this. To me, a genuine community is a group of people who belong to one another. Not that they belong to the community, they belong to the other people that they share in the community. And then true community, which is a bit more than just a community, is those people that are really committed to one another in in every way possible. I'm sorry, because they share the same vision and they share, most importantly, they share the same values in life. Vision and values, purpose and values, they inform of our beliefs. And so it's a group of people that also share the same beliefs because they care about each other deeply. That's what defines a true community. You know, the way to explain it in my opinion is, you know, is the people who are willing to wake up in the middle of the night just to help you for any reason, be it that because you're stressed or because you need their help or attention or simply you want them to hear your voice or you want to hear their opinion on something. That's what defines a true community. And I'm very blessed to say that I can be part of many communities, even living in Curaçao. Nowadays, because we're also part of so many communities and not just the physical communities, we also have many virtual communities popping up. I mean, just if we take this year during COVID times, how many communities we've been seeing popping up. Innovation C is one example of a very, um, that's very, how do we say, um, all these virtual communities popping up. Again, I have some interesting discussion we can have later on virtual communities, to what extent they are true communities. As I believe for a community to be a community, people actually need to know and have very personal connections, which are not impossible in a virtual community, but certainly is challenging. What we see around the world happening is that people are less committed to organizations and to affiliations, but they're more affiliative than ever. So we belong to many more groups than before. It's easy for us to like a community group on Facebook, to join the Black Lives Matter movement, to join the Me Too movement. But then again, we're less committed to those movements as well. That's also what we see. Some people find it just enough for them to reshare a post on these initiatives, all these different hashtag campaigns that become a movement. And that's their contribution to the community. Whereas in the past, people would be much more engaged in other communities and helping a lot more, putting shoulders behind all the initiatives. Hamal, this will definitely not be an affiliate marketing presentation. No worries. And so for me, there are three keys to a community. And the first one being support. What defines and gives communities their power is the degree to which people and the individuals in a community support one another. It is about helping others have the life they want to have. And it's about getting the help you need to get the things you want in life and in business. And there are many ways we do that. I mean, it's either helping a friend, helping out a colleague, taking on an initiative together. But the next step in that would be helping others succeed and get what they want in life, for you to get in return what you want in life and what they get in life. Um, it's like, you know, in order to be who you want to be, you got to give all that you want to have to others so that they can give it back to you, is the way to say it. Secondly, I think it's encouragement. The second key being that it's about helping people in the community find the courage to do the things that are difficult for them or the things that they want to do that they can do, and actually surpassing their own limiting beliefs, even in some cases. I remember a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my colleagues who's actually finishing her studies, and she was really struggling with her thesis, and saying that it's a lot easier for her to prioritize work, to do what she needs to do, and then keep procrastinating on her thesis. And then in having a conversation, it was like, okay, how can we support you and how can I encourage you to do and give you the space and give you all the options and the opportunities that you're looking for in order for you to complete your thesis, to finish. And that's actually helping them, encouraging them, and definitely will, with a lot of kindness, certainly, Yolanda. Thanks for your comment there as well. To pursue the things that they want to pursue, but sometimes are even difficult for them to pursue. And then I think the third key, and for me, a very, very important one, is accountability. It's about giving others the feedback they need to become the persons they want to be. And it's also definitely getting the feedback that you need to get in order for you to be the person you want to be. And again, a simple example, I was here at DNI on a weekly basis. We have check-in meetings with the college, and it's also an opportunity for us to have the more serious and what I call the more crucial conversations with our team members. And one of my colleagues' friends gave me a feedback that she was feeling that I'm so busy scheduling, filling up my agenda, meeting commitments, and not taking so much time to be with the team, to just be, sit on the sofa, sit on the couch in the office and just have small talks, because even those are important. And she was telling me that, Daniel, maybe you should pay attention because she knows that I want to be there for the team. I want to be there and I want to share with the team. So I also need to prioritize it. Also, in this sense, I believe that the quality of one people of someone's life is also determined by the number of uncomfortable and difficult conversations you have in your life. Because it's only through those difficult conversations where people keep you accountable to the person you are and the person you want to be is the way to grow. If you grow, the community grows, and then you can have a bigger and a larger impact to what you do. So it's about the gift of C, C being support, engagement, and accountability. That's what communities need now more than ever. And I saw Miguel had a comment in behalf. So we are not a community. His comment says, we're not a community. That is always my disappointment. The contradiction between what we say and what we do. Yeah, also the contradiction between the person we want to be and the person that we actually are. So community, to a large extent, there's not just one community. There are many, many communities, and one community might be stronger than another. Is to the extent to which people actually support each other, encourage one another, and be accountable to one another. Maybe for the communities, and when we talk about our larger community being Curaçao, we need more of each of these three. We need to be more supportive to one another. Maybe we need to encourage others more, and definitely, in my personal opinion, keep each other more accountable to what we agree on and to the person, and helping each other become the person that they want to be. And so, let me just go to my next sheet. And this is for me a quote that, in preparing for the session this afternoon, kept me quite busy. And I want to share it with you, and I really want to hear your insight as well. And the quote is from George Bernard Shaw, and it reads, I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I would like to give you a couple of seconds to read it for yourself and just comment in the section in the chat box what it is that this quote is telling you, and I'll happily share mine with you as well. While you're all thinking, I will soon start. Aha, I have Andy back with me. Andy, what is your reflect? No, not yet. Okay, cool. So I think it's related also to what Steve Jobs said about dying empty. Oh, that's a very nice reflection indeed, Ilian. For me personally, this quote talks a lot about leadership and leadership in communities. Everyone is a leader as long and if you can influence someone, it means that you're a leader. And so I think that as leaders, given that most of us are actually leaders, we have a responsibility to the community in which we live. And it is to give it all that we have, all our imperfections as well. Give it whatever it is that we have that we can, with as much kindness as possible, like Yolanda presented, and then use it. And then when we die, we can die empty, like Ilian was was repeating a Steve Jobs quote. And I think that's the way to harness the power of community. Is leaders showing vulnerability, like also Elamika was saying in the chat, being open and giving that community all that they have. Guila said that I agreed with Mr. Shaw. I believe that our only job or mission, purpose, or whatever you want to call it, in this life is to leave the world a better place than we found it. To live for oneself exclusively is a waste of oxygen. Yes, that's not paying your rent on this planet, certainly, Mr. Um, Castillo. And so, my plea for today is to each one of us to recognize that we have a responsibility, not just as a community member, but as a leader in the community, in each of the community. If you're a father, it means that you're the leader of the community called family. If you're a friend, you're probably one of the leaders in that community with your friends as well. So each of us, in certain aspects, when we're wearing certain hats in our life, have that responsibility. And thank you again. Um, for giving that time, that energy, that kindness, that vulnerability, and to grow together. And I want to keep it short, and then maybe we have more time for the roundtable. In closing, what I want to say is that at the end of the day, this is all about not belonging, not being together, but also looking out for one another, looking out for those that are in need, but also looking out for those that are ahead of us, looking at them, looking at them deeply in the eyes, looking through them, and together feeling one another and being together. That's for me the power of community. Because happiness, we can feel it, each and any one of us. And when we achieve something for ourselves, when we finish, when we graduate school, when we get a new job, when we meet a deadline, that brings a moment of happiness because it's something that we do for ourselves. But true joy, that is when we do something for someone else, for the larger community, and for that thing that is bigger than any of us. And so that's how also communities can work together by putting everything aside and growing together and being bigger and better that we can think with all our imperfections. Thank you. Yes. Andy, are you there?
Ah,
Yeah.
my mic was still muted. I was
No
just
worries.
thanking you and acknowledging you for your presentation, and my
No
excuse that I
worries.
came on stage a little bit too early. I wasn't sure if you were done yet, but I love it, and I absolutely believe that as a community servant, you are serving, and yeah, you need to put certain things aside, especially certain beliefs, like who decides what a community is and who doesn't decide what a community is. Some people thrive the best when they are up front, and some thrive the best when they're in the back where they can't be seen and they can't be heard. And some people thrive the best in the middle where they're crowded with their community members around them. We shouldn't value one as more important as the other because we're all needed. So that's
Very
I
true.
think that's the great thing of a community. So I acknowledge you. Thank you so much. I'm going to remove your slide, even though I would love to continue on it. Maybe we can come back to it later in the roundtable. But I want to see your face for a sec, a little bit bigger before we
Yeah.
go to the
Sure.
roundtable.
Sure.
You do so many presentations, so this is for you almost the most normal thing. But you said something during your presentation that I would, before we go to the roundtable, hear your opinion on.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned a little bit between a real community and a digital community. I would love to hear your take on that
Okay.
and give you
Sure.
some time on that.
Sure. No, giving presentations will never get normal for me. My heart still beats a bit faster when I do a presentation. So no matter where or when, if it's virtual or presential, I think I mean that's what reminds me that I'm a human being and that
Same
it's
here.
you giving what you have. So certainly, but I was saying the difference between a community and a virtual community. You know what it is? And this is again, I don't think that I have the magic stick or that the right answer to it. But communities require a lot of personal connection. It requires people to feel one another, to be with one another. And while certainly digital means make it possible, it's a lot more difficult for us to connect at the same level of depth that you can when you meet someone in person. Obviously, with this pandemic, it is challenging all our beliefs about many things. I'm going to give you an example. I'm part of the Scout movement, 54 million scouts all around the world. But scouting happens in scout groups each Saturday. That's what my group of friends that I grew up with. And then I got the opportunity to travel for scouting, going to a jamboree. And then obviously, I don't know if you're a scout maybe, but when you see the scouts from other countries, you immediately already know that they are your friends. You have never met them before. You have never shared anything with them before, but they're friends. Why? Because they share the same values and the same purpose to leave this world a little better than what we found it. But then again, during that jamboree, you become the best friends and you build a sub community within that larger community. But then back then, when I went to a jamboree, there was no talk whatsoever on Facebook or WhatsApp. So when we left the jamboree, it was only through postcards that we kept contact. And that community vanished. Obviously, because nowadays we have all these digital means, they are still there. You can still keep in touch. But it's almost sounds like an oxymoron to me to say that a virtual community can be a true community because it cannot, to my very personal opinion, at some point, it cannot just stay a virtual community. It needs to become something else in order for it to survive. Just take, for example, the Black Lives Matter, which started as a virtual community at some point and became a community where people had human touch. And that's the same with many others. Innovation C so far has been a largely digital community, virtual community, but there has been instances, and I hope that there will be more, where people actually come together physically in person, because then you will be able to do things that in other instances you won't. And that is something that technology, for what I think, will be unable to replace it. It's that, the same as Yolanda was talking about kindness. You can share kindness through screens, obviously, but me giving you a gift releases many more endorphins than you giving me something digitally, like a gift card. I don't know if you understand a bit where I come from.
Oh, absolutely. In the meanwhile, before I continue, I would like to ask Yolanda to come back on stage and Rianne to come on stage so we can really hit off the round table. And I'm gonna answer your question. Because I have a disability and I can't travel, go everywhere, anywhere, so I do a lot of stuff digitally, and because of that, I've been able to be more of a community builder than before, because I'm very much a lone wolf. I very much like to be alone. I used to be a scout as well, but I couldn't handle the crowdedness. Again, there's a difference in there. But in the last year, I discovered that I wanted to reach out to people, but I wasn't sure how to do that. So I came with, I don't have one here. This is my business card, but I have this business card as a postcard, and I've been sending out these postcards. And with those postcards, I sent out over 500 in 1 year. And that's thanks to Curaçao, by the way, that I'm going to invite on stage in a little bit. But yeah, and that way I've been able to reach out with my kindness, just not in Yolanda's colorful way, but in my salty pirate, black and white and scruffy way, and also be a little bit of the community builder as you are. And I'm hoping that one day that message will come across. Welcome everyone in my screen over here. To the public that doesn't know you, up top left, you see Daniel Corsen, underneath Yolanda Wiel, the both that give a presentation, and underneath me, I think, if that's for everyone the same, is Rihanna Cecilia.
Hi guys.
She's a core team member of Innovation C and the moderator for today, and a dear assistant in these last two conferences.
I think 2 conferences indeed.
Yeah. Thank you for being here and help me again. How did you think the presentation went this day of Daniel and Yolanda? You don't have to pick your favorites yet. We'll do that after the conference.
No, I think that one of the comments that I just noted down at the end of the presentations, I felt that your presentations complemented each other. So in terms of, I think, and maybe Andy, I think you already thought about it, but also the order I think was perfectly. So I think it was a good combination of both point of view. So who's better, just complementing each other. And it was great, inspiring definitely as well.
Yeah, we've done this is the 12th or the 13th digital conference that we've done. We've done one in Papillon and all the others were in English. We started with 4 speakers, and the last 2 we did with 2 speakers, so you could get more really focused attention. And for some, I don't know why, but for some reason this one scared me, but it also excites me because it's something that I really work on behind the scenes that people don't know. But yeah, and you two, I love it very much. I'm just gonna invite Luc on stage because Luc is also a community builder, but in a very different way. Luc is a very digital community builder. Luc, are you there? Please come on stage. Luc is always a busy bee digitally.
Hello.
Luc is one of the founders or the initial founder of Innovation C. It all started live at Landhuis Chocolobo, where we actually met each other, where as always I try to shy away from everyone, but this dude put me front and center. Luc, welcome to the stage.
I'm super happy to be here. First of all, I think digital communities, Yolanda, I already felt connected to you before your presentation because I see your messages every day and it's always positivity. And I mean, I already had a good vibe about that even before the conference. I mean, yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Okay.
Well, and the funny thing is, I know Yolanda for quite a while. I've never met Daniel except for I've heard of him and I knew of him. But at the moment I mentioned him to Luc, he got very excited. So you have two fanboys over here, Daniel. But that was a loud
That's
noise.
my puppy.
Okay, Luc has a new
She
baby.
wants to be part of the community as well, the puppy.
Yeah, she's filled with kindness and joy.
I'm gonna give before we continue the roundtable, I'm gonna give the mic to Luc for a second because Luc has awesome community news. Luc, can you share a little bit of what you're doing, why you're doing, and why are you in the middle of this today?
So there's a lot of reasons why. I was going to make a presentation slide, but I was too caught up listening to these great presentations that I decided not to distract myself and just focus completely on these stories. So I'll try to freestyle and I'll send everything in the links over here. So before Innovation C started in 2018, I got drawn into a digital community myself. I've been involved in the cryptocurrency community, the wider cryptocurrency community now for almost 3 years. I've met most of my friends and colleagues through that. And along that journey, we started to think about community and what brings people together. I think, Daniel, you just mentioned it's the shared values and the shared purpose. And one thing that always frustrated me early on studying business administration here was the disconnect between the economic system and what communities really needed. Communities wanted the well-being for each other. They don't care about money. They don't care about all these other things that you see in between that in the end just need to bring people together to do good things. And it seems that we drifted so far away from the essence of why we have these resources available and how we do it as a group. So there we started to think of new solutions. And one thing that we've been working on is the project called Curaçao. It's a digital community foundation that uses technology to create a transparent voting system. And we give away community grants to projects that have a positive impact on the island. We have created our own community currency that has an equal value approximately to the guilder, and we give that away based on community voting to projects that have a positive impact, with the idea to further improve on this concept and create a community movement that is able to drive completely on social impact. So no corporate or no for-profit needs. It's purely based on what the people need, and together we can hopefully coordinate around that. So we currently have 7,500 Curaçao, which is almost equal to 7,500 guilders available for community grants. So we've created a call for proposals. If anyone has a project in mind or is already doing a project, I'll share the link in a bit. Please get in touch with us. We would love to support with anywhere between 100 to 1,500 Curaçao. And from there, see how this develops. And they're also in touch with the Donut Economy Task Force in Curaçao. And hopefully we can really recreate a what we call a regenerative economy. So an economy that just doesn't take away from the people and doesn't take away from nature, but really makes it better and reinforces it. So that was my small pitch. I'd love to get back to the discussion.
I think this is a beautiful bridge to what Daniel ended with, what Yolanda stands for, and what you're trying to do. We need this. We need the financial part to continue these communities. We need to build the bridge between the new technical world that's not going to go away. It's going to get even more. However, the Daniel Corsen world of scouting, which is very, very important, needs to remain. It needs to stay there because we need, as Yolanda said, that physical connection, that hug on the bridge where no one can escape. I love that part, by the way. I didn't know you were so devious, but so yeah, let's continue on that. Rianne, did you have any questions, remarks that you noted in the chat that you want to bring up?
Yes, definitely. So one of the first questions that have been asked, so that's one in the question tab, and I'm just going to repeat it. So what was said is that, like a lot of people, I battle with the fact that others see my kindness as weakness. It makes me not want to do kind gestures anymore, so they won't be taken for granted. Do you have any advice for how to cope with myself and or these people after I feel like I've been taken for granted? And I think this question has been asked after your presentation, Yolanda.
Yep.
Okay.
So any tips from your side on how to cope?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the kindness that you do is kindness is something that you give away without expecting anything back. It's something that even if no one sees you do it because you want to make things better for someone else or the entire world, or just one being. But I think also because if you feel taken for granted, it's because you're going over your own boundaries, and that is not kind to yourself. So first, step one actually is to check with yourself if you're being kind to you, and then go and give. Don't give if it's taken from you. Yeah.
I think kindness is actually your power. It's not your weakness, it's your power. But you do have to be careful that other people don't take advantage of it. So that's indeed where you set your boundaries. But just look at this network of Innovation C. We couldn't have done it without the kindness of the people that are working within it. Luc, Rianne, Stacy, all the speakers that have come up in these past months. So kindness is our superpower.
And even if at that moment you feel that it didn't work out, don't think that it's because your kindness was wrong. Don't stop being kind just because it didn't work out the way you wanted it to be. Keep doing kindness and keep being a kind person, because it will lead you. That's how the universe works. It will lead you to the places where you need to be, to meet the people you need to meet, and to be in the timing where you need to be.
I don't know about Daniel why he joined the Boy Scouts, but when I joined the Scouts, one of the reasons was because for me, I mean, I'm 43. At that time, they always were the guys that used to help the elderly cross the street, and that was kind of one of the reasons. And of course, save kitties out of trees. That was the reason why I joined the Boy Scouts. So it was, it is a sort of kindness organization.
Yeah, Boy Scout. I mean, and nowadays, thank God it's no longer called Boy Scouts. We're a lot more inclusive nowadays. Um, uh, but in my case, I didn't have a choice to join. Huh? My parents are still very, very active members of the movement, and so I didn't have a choice. I went to my first camp with just 3 months old, and then I mean, my parents decided that on Saturdays I had to spend it with them at the scout group. But then the funny thing happened is that at some point, I really didn't want to stay in the movement because I went on to secondary school. You get new friends, you get new interests, the ladies, the sports, and then scouting became boring. And so I told my parents one day, I really don't want to continue doing this. And then they were like, it's fine, but before you stop, before you quit, just go to a World Scout Jamboree. And for those of you who don't know what it is, that's a huge camp with over 40,000 participants all over the globe coming. And so I went in the early 2000s to Thailand. And then I really felt the kindness movement, like you called it, Andy. And since then, I'm more committed than ever to the movement. So it was not something I chose. It's something that I'm very committed to nowadays. However, it's because I do identify with the values that are shared. And so if I can just make a small comment on the question on kindness as a weakness, it's exactly what Yolanda said. There is this game, this negotiation game, where you're given black stones and red stones. And against your competitor, the one you're negotiating with, you get to choose in each round what you want to play. Do you want to play black or do you want to play red? Red means that you one up them, and black means that you want to be on an equal basis. And the only way to win is that you all continue on using the black and everyone, getting what they want. But it's very difficult in negotiation. And so I try to translate that same thing to kindness. You cannot be throwing black stones to others if you're throwing red stones to yourself. You cannot give kindness if you're not being kind to yourself. You cannot give more love than you have for yourself. And so, always, if you sometimes feel people take you for granted, maybe it's a good time to reflect and think that maybe you are not kind to yourself either.
Ooh, powerful.
Yeah.
That's we got to be honest to ourselves. I just wrote a quote about that a couple of days ago. I love it. Yolanda, you had a remark?
No, I was just saying it's indeed very powerful and insightful. It gives me new perspectives actually to look at this, because I had the same initial thought about kindness being taken for granted. So food for thought, I have to say.
I think the biggest problem that I notice that people have is their kindness towards themselves. We judge ourselves so harshly, and because of that, we think other people judge us that harshly as well. And it's something that I talk to so many people about. Yeah, but is it really like that? Yeah, but and okay, let's take a look in your mirror right now. And setting boundaries is very important. Taking the time to yourself, be silent with yourself. Be completely silent with yourself and have that conversation kindly with yourself. So I saw a question
There's
from
another
Giano.
question indeed. Yeah, so maybe just to go first to the question of Giano. He was saying, "Great, hey guys, great presentations. Which community or causes in Curaçao do you think deserve more attention?"
Yolanda's.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
Spread the love. But
If I may,
give me some. Give me some names.
if I may, there is
Yeah, please.
definitely the community that deserves a lot more attention on this island. I would call it family.
Oh,
Family.
Nowadays, I remember how many families still have lunch together, still have dinner together. It's a lot less than before. And I think our community is a reflection that the individualistic that our families have become. People work together. I mean, parents, they live with their kids, each in their own room. They FaceTime, they WhatsApp from their room to the person that they need. How many communal moments are families sharing? That's the question I want to ask everyone. And that's very personal for me, is that, and I'm not talking about the traditional definition of family. I'm all for the more inclusive definition of families as well. Not just the people that are blood related, maybe, but those you choose also to be your family in your life. And so those deserve a lot more attention in my regards, because that is where we all come back and we all go back to, whether we want it or not.
I think that's so powerful, and indeed, it's so simple. I didn't even think about it, but family is indeed. I'm having my own little alternative family in the last 4 years that is shaping and building. I have a bonus daughter that's 7 years old now, and indeed, what you say, it's been an eye opener, but more importantly, a heart opener. Since then, I don't lose my temper as much anymore. So. Absolutely, so good. Any more communities? I mean, Gil is in the. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Miss Castillo. Gil Castillo is there, and Gil is a huge supporter of the animal community or the animal welfare on the island. She does a lot for dogs. Even wrote a book about it. You can get it at Mensing's Caminada. I'm just promoting one of our participants over here. So of course that Elamika is also a big community builder, and her organization has done a lot for team building for not just companies, but also personal bike riding and things like that. So physical and health related. Any other communities that need support? Of course, Innovation C. We always can use your support.
Definitely.
We'll share more about that.
I've been collaborating with a friend. She's a photographer, and we've been going around the island speaking to undocumented people on the island. And I was involved with delivering food packages to undocumented people on the island during the lockdown. Because I was given a grant by Good Deeds Day, and now that I'm taking more time speaking to them, I realize how difficult their life is, and who come from Venezuela in the boat, and they risk their lives. Sometimes they can't even swim, and they just go and take the boat with all the risks that are involved. We just drop them off at the coast, anywhere, not even on the beach, but just out in sea. And if you can't swim, it's up to you how you get to the coast. So, yeah, undocumented people is also a community that needs more attention.
I certainly agree with you there, Yolanda. Definitely.
Yes. And one final question from Wiel. For discussion's sake, is it kind to stand up for someone or something? Is it kind to speak out against injustice or corruption?
I think especially the first part I'm more excited to talk about. I think speaking up for others is extremely kind, especially if you know that someone doesn't have the capabilities or self-love, maybe even, to come up for themselves. It really takes a lot of understanding yourself and knowing where you are standing and where you want to be to really come up for yourself. And sometimes by just showing someone that in a kind way you can voice your needs and voice what you're about, can really shape kind of how an interaction goes. I think that really has a lot of positive benefits. I've experienced it myself, where people know what they want to say, but they just can't get it out. And then helping them, of course, it shouldn't be rude, not like, oh no, you did this wrong, but in a positive way, just mentioning like, hey, this person is not here with bad intentions. He or she tried to do this or this. Maybe we can resolve this in another way. Yeah, I think definitely. And standing up against injustice or corruption, I think that's, of course, also very relevant. But I think that's more of an organized thing opposed to just coming up for someone. I think that's really important.
I fully agree that that's something that I put my foot down for very, very hard. I know I have a big mouth, and I noticed that when I was still in my wheelchair and learning to walk again, that by opening my mouth, I could help the other people that were also having a disability and that had less the strength to talk, give them a better voice. And because of that, their care became better. And I've been carrying on that ever since. And that's why I'm also sitting here. We're reaching our time. So before we're going to go, I want to thank Elamika for her share in the links over there. I'm going to take a look at that and see if I can also share that on other social media. Thank you for that initiative. Gil, thank you for sharing your comment in the chat session. Miguel, thank you also for you bringing the community discussion to the table. I want to give the last words to everyone before we close off. I think Jan has a connection issue, so we're going to start with Daniel. Do you have any last words for this?
Jan is there.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Yes, sorry.
That is just with me and my screen. It says disabled. But Daniel, any last words for this conference? Because I'm going to talk to you soon again in person.
I hope so too.
With you.
So my last words, and it's because the reflection on Miguel's question still keeps going on in my head, and I think whenever you're speaking against injustice or corruption, maybe it wouldn't feel like kindness, but it's definitely selfless. And selfless will at some point always be kind. And so selflessness, I mean. And so my closing remarks for today would be, we talked about communities, we talked about working together, but more importantly for me personally, it's this paradoxical saying that goes, being selfless is the most selfish thing you can do for yourself. And that also relates to the fact that we are what our communities are. We are a reflection of our community. And so in serving our community, being selfless and giving our communities everything that we have, that's also the most selfish thing and possibly the best and the kindest thing we can do for ourselves as well. So that's my final reflection for the day. Thank you again very much for the presentation, for the opportunity here to share with you. I very much enjoyed it. I've been watching some of your previous sessions, so I consider myself also part of this community innovation seat. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
That's a win. Yolanda, any famous last words for this digital conference?
Well, I was just thinking about it with the injustices and speaking up. We're conditioned to think of, oh, someone else will do that, or some police should come and solve it. But being more kind and making the community stronger, we're going to be less dependent on government institutions and authorities. And I think that is really defining factor of a stronger community. So yeah. For ways to make yourself and make your community less dependent on government.
Yeah. I would love to add to that and just, I completely agree with you, Yolanda. I think making a positive alternative is sometimes better than trying to fight what you think is unjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Luc. I had a frozen moment for a second. Let's continue with Rianne. Rianne, any last words from your side?
No, I just want to say thank you for inspiring me, because I had received a lot of food for thought, things that I need to think or at least reflect about. And for me, it takes some time. So a lot of interesting things have been said. So thank you for your inspiration and the great presentations, of course.
Well, with that being said, thank you, Rianne, as always, for your very sweet assistance. I really love working with you. So that, Yolanda, you over-delivered. I loved your presentation, just your colorfulness, the talks with you up front. thank you so much. You did very, very well. I hope this will help you release more of the tension before. Although what Daniel said, if you don't have that tension up front anymore, you're in the wrong business, because you need to have that little excitement, that little life. Daniel, thank you very much for your time and being a reshaper with us. And Luc is back, and I want to thank Luc again also for giving me the space to do this. As you can see in the chat section, I shared our socials, our website, and the community. If you scroll a little bit up, you can see I shared the proposal link that Luc mentioned, where you can send in your proposal if you're gonna do some good deeds for the island, do some community work. Send in your proposal, get some digital currency from Curaçao. No, sorry, I'm
It's
saying
all good.
from Curaçao. Thank you all for taking your time to be here, and this is all going to be soon on our YouTube channel, and I'm going to share it also on our Facebook page. Our whole community thanks you, and with that, I wish you all an amazing rest of your Wednesday, and hope to see you all soon. Let's keep it.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.